Unit 2, Evaluation, Case Study Presentation, Course Social Practice for Teaching English. Licenciatura en Enseñanza y Aprendizaje del Inglés, Escuela Normal de Amecameca. Introduction. The objective is for the students to understand the use of social language practice, and the application is theoretical based in constructivism and the communicative approach in foreign language teaching for learning English in secondary education through observation, an analysis of a practical case of application using a lesson from the text taking into account the topic social interest in the young student community such as relationships.
The first vocabulary activity is considered a social practice of the language. Since the activity is based on the transmission of information in writing with the aim of making known some of the characteristics that stand out on the friendship relationship that the student has in every life. In the second part of the reading activity, we can find the social practice of language of the information that is being communicated. In writing form about what the plot of the film is like so that the student can know what the context that is around the protagonist is like of the film and the interaction that occurred within the film. When the student read this, they will be able to discuss the question that the book raises, such as why do you think people like this movie so much, or how long can friendship last when you keep in touch but don't spend time together. For the third grammar activity, the social practice of language focuses on the proper use of the word for correct use that intended to be given throughout the message. The activity consists of the student knowing the context, being able to identify the correct words in the text and underline them. The last speaking activity shows us a clear example of a social practice of language, since in this activity the student will transmit a message based on a social interaction with a communicative object. The message that the student transmits will be to tell how she met her best friend, to make known what her conceit is like. And the communicative object is to transmit that story to their classmate and teacher. It contributes to secondary school students in their learning because the activities are based on their daily life and on situations in which they can develop. They are achieving real communication because there is a sender that in the students the message is given in writing and oral form, and the receiver is the communicative situation that is taking place.
The explanation of how the classes or lesson present the features that characterize a social practice of language. 1. The social interaction, discussed through speech and textual interaction with the school community. 2. Communication through languages in oral or writing form. In the activity, the formal has to be written down and has to be said orally with those who participate in the activity, with an exchange of opinions. 3. It has a particular of context use. Social participation, the student generates ideas and has a critical thinking to solve the activity and to make a circle of discussion of reading. 4. Establishes a clear communication objective to be archived. School community participation and discuss in class. 5. Present an appressive text format to be followed. The activity has a present text format to follow, as the points to follow are perfectly divided to conclude in a comprehensive way. 6. Be used according to the particular audience, since the context is social because of the relationships that exist between the learner and the text is particular. Therefore, the language of the text goes accordingly. 7. Linguistic and extra-linguistic elements for communication are taken up if the activities show different spaces, how they help to understand the text, and how the management of emotions can distinguish between the community. They are social habits.
How does the use of these lessons serve as a constructivism approach, considering the authors Ausubel, Piaget, and Vygotsky?
Vygotsky. They show us the social linguistic there is a variety of languages in the activity depending on the context in linguistic with grammar and vocabulary discursive. The structure is the film text, sociocultural, promoted the extra-linguistic factors of the activities. Pragmatic in what context? Social communication. It shows us the development of the activities with relationship and interaction of the school community as well as scaffolding process.
Now, let's get with
Piaget. Each student builds their own knowledge of it based on their cognitive development and reasoning. There is assimilation in the activities of the lesson that includes adjusting knowledge and new experiences. Accommodation. They show us all ideas of that accommodated to build knowledge. Balance. There is activity that unites the relationship between accommodation and assimilation. Build problems and building possibilities. Possible. It is expected that the activity that will have relevance with real life meaning. The material provides a basis of the knowledge so the student can manipulate it in her own way. Since the exercises are made for all school social context, relating and all experiences with the new ones.
Can be understood and applied correctly.
Now we're going to explain how this lesson makes use of the communicative approach to learning, considering the authors studied, like Chomsky, Himes, and Krashen. According to Chomsky, the material presented gives the student the opportunity to discuss questions related to their daily life according to the reading that comes with the activity. With their prior knowledge regarding their friendship relationship, students are expected to be able to engage in conversation with each other no matter what type of language they use. According to Chomsky, he mentions that the linguistic and grammatical knowledge that the student has is important. Likewise, the performance that the student has when engaging in a conversation naturally with his classmates or with anyone is important. In the case of Himes, as mentioned above, it is important for the student to be able to engage in conversations with the environment in which they operate. Therefore, it is imperative that the student learn extra-linguistic factors that they influence the acquisition of a new language, as mentioned by Himes. The activity presented gives the possibility for students to know stories, traditions, values at the moment of meeting a person and beginning to relate to them. Likewise, it is important that when starting a conversation, consider the actual use of the language as soon as you talk with your classmates about their previous experience in terms of friendship. The student knows and differentiates the type of language used in different contexts, formal and informal. In the case of Krashen, the material proves to be an acquisition activity for the student, since it offers the possibility of exchanging ideas and experiences with their other classmates. So the acquisition of language is expected to be natural, unconscious, and implicit, as stipulated by Krashen, thanks to the fact that the subject can be manipulated in a very novel way and applied in the real life of the students.
Explain why and how the lesson or class is adapted to the particular level of language being taught according to the Common European framework or reference. In this case, the level of the lesson is B1, because with respect to the Common European framework of the reference, we're looking for the student to understand the main points of clear standard input on familiar matters regularly encountered in work, school, leisure, etc. Can deal most situations likely to arise while traveling in an area where the language is spoken. Can produce simple connect text on topics which are familiar of a personal interest. Can describe experience and events, dreams, hopes, and ambitions, and briefly give reasons and explanations for opinions and plans. So, in this lesson we are be able to identify the different aspects to learn English in the context for a better communication based on the level of English. Features of the graduation profile with secondary education. Number 1. Language and communication. We use the English language to communicate in different contexts and discover the student's experience, event, plans, and desires. Number 2. Mathematical thinking. Here we measures the degree of complexity of the activities to be carried out during class. Number 3. Exploration and understanding of the natural and social world. In the text, you read about the social phenomena. Complex questions are formulated, analyzed and carried out, and answers are constructed through the questions. Number 4. Critical thinking and problem solving. Questions of a different nature are formulated. The proposed solutions are argued and the conclusions are based. Although, I will propose that concept maps of graphic be used to carry out and understanding activities. Number 5. Social-emotional skills and life project. Short-term and long-term learning strategies are applied, since the concepts are understood within the activities to be carried out in their life, although more content is needed in detail to use this knowledge and apply it to a life project. Number 6. Collaboration and teamwork. It is recognized to work from the first activity as a couple in a collaborative way. In order to strive to achieve collective objectives, undertakes the collaboration of carry out activities as a couple. Number 7. Coexistence and citizenship. As students learning the English language, Spanish their native language, we recognize individual and social diversity, how we take this knowledge and learn it with the outside world, acting with social responsibility. Number 8. Artistic appreciation and expression. It is not very noticeable, and he considered that we apply the creativity of activities in a more cultural context and exercise them in customs and traditions. It too can be read a bit in the reading about the film and transport us to the context of which they speak to us. Only in this way can be expressed in an element of art. Conclusions. We believe that the objective of analysis was achieved thanks to the fact that we were able to capture an activity of a certain level of interest among the young student community that meets all the characteristics to be considered a social practice of language. It is interesting to know the background of an activity, how to apply it and distribute it equitably in order to develop and explore all the knowledge that the students can generate for themselves. The social practice of the language is important because it teaches you new techniques to be able to teach a different language without as much repetition as we had been taught, but it helps us to make the class more dynamic and independent. Thanks. The reference of this lesson was taken from the book Empower Intermediate Students Book of Cambridge English, Level B1+, the lesson done in Unit 2, Relationships, page 32, 33, and 34.